decided to, do a little research on this project is André and I will be working on a professional recording along with Michael of this work and a few of Madeline Dring's cabaret duets and trios. So, Covered Love by Madeline Dring. I think it's important to start off with who is Madeline Dring. And you're going to see two styles of presenting today. I have to write my notes down and read them verbatim, and he flies off the cuff. So.
Let's tell our secrets.
Yeah. Born in 1923 in Hornsey, London, to an affluent and musical family, Madeline Dring seemed destined to live a life of music making. Madeline's father was a cellist and ventriloquist. Her mother was a professional mezzo-soprano. Her brother a percussionist, and Madeline herself was a gifted violinist and pianist. Sunday afternoons were usually spent giving small concerts to friends and family. At the age of 10, Madeline was awarded a scholarship to the Royal College of Music's junior program to study violin. It was here that Madeline discovered her love for the theater. At an early age, she wrote the incidental music to the Christmas plays at the Royal College program for the junior people. She soon lost interest in the violin and began studying voice and acting in the plays. When she was fully enrolled at the Royal College of Music, Madeline focused heavily on composition, and there she studied with Herbert Howells, Gordon Jacob, and Vaughan Williams. It was during this time that Madeline began an association with the BBC, where she composed for animated shorts. During her studies at the Royal College of Music, Madeline married Roger Froyen Lord, who was a former Royal Air Force officer and who would become principal oboist at the London Symphony Orchestra. In the 1940s and 50s, Dring became a heavily sought-after composer in the London music and theater scene. She wrote a great deal of cabaret music and serious music that both equally received excellent reviews. Critics celebrated her music for remaining accessible and for sounding more difficult to perform than it actually was. Critics remarked that she had a talent for getting the most musical effect with the least amount of effort. Dring wrote in a sort of patchwork style. She would take small little themes and just sort of string them together rather than working on one theme and exploring it for a length of time. Her music is highly chromatic. She uses non-chord tones, non-traditional chords, jazz harmonies, etc., but it does remain very tuneful, so it was always very accessible to listen to. In the 1960s, favor was found in contemporary and experimental styles. This is the time of George Crumb and Barrio and all these really crazy avant-garde composers. So people started really losing interest in Dring's music, and this led her to be a little more introspective. Her famous trio for flute, oboe, and piano was written during this time. It premiered in Florida with André at the piano, Peter Lloyd on the flute, and her husband playing the oboe. The 1970s was a short decade of self-spiritual discovery for Dring. She began to study spirituality and was a sought-after lecturer on spiritual matters, New Age spirituality. Many critics agree that her most poignant songs were written during this time. Those were the 4 night songs, 5 Benjamin songs, and Love in Time, which is another song cycle. On March 26, 1977, Madeline Dring died of a brain hemorrhage while composing her final song of 4 night songs, and her husband had to complete the song. And this quote at the bottom is from her final song. It's a poetic line from it, and I thought it was important just to enter it in. Out in the dark night, the birds are asleep, and you too are sleeping, out of my reach, held only in my thoughts. The librettist is Daniel F. Aitken. We really don't know much about him, but what we do know is that he and Dring collaborated on several theater productions during the 40s and 50s. Those included Waiting for ITMA, that was on the West End in 1947, Somebody's Murdered Uncle in 1947, Fairy Queen of Wu, which premiered on the BBC in 1951, and then Covered Love in the early 1950s, which never received a performance. Her husband got together a group of people and he did a live reading in 1983.
Okay, so now that we've heard a little bit about Dring herself, let's talk a bit about the plot. So this comes directly from the score. No character names other than the pronouns he, she, and it. It referring to the dead husband. Dun, dun, dun. So he and she are going back to the flat for their sort of affair rendezvous. And all of a sudden, as they are about to consummate, I guess, again, their relationship, it falls out of the cupboard, thus cupboard love. And as a result, they start trying to figure out how he died. They start basically saying, you did it, you did it, you did it, you did it. And all of a sudden, at the end, the body lifts, raises, and decides to say, I did it, myself. And in order to get them in trouble with the police. So a real twist at the end of this short opera. The location typically takes place in the kitchen, because that's where cupboards are. So, but at the same time, a cupboard can be all sorts of places, so you can sort of put this in all sorts of situations and other such. There are some stage directions in the score that are fairly specific, but again, not specific enough to detract from the ability to stage this however you'd like. I did like some of the stage directions have been modified slightly to avoid having open flames on the stage. There's a lot of cigarette talk. I mean, this was the 50s, so cigarettes were lucky for you. So basically, very simple plot. There's a little twist at the end, a whodunit twist. And again, the setting can be adjusted in so many different ways, in so many different places, that it gives you a lot of options, right? You don't just have to do it in a proscenium sort of theater. You can do it on a flat stage. You can do it in and amongst audience members. There's a lot of variety that's available. Johnny.
So if you're ever going to program this show, there are some things to consider. It is only 3 roles, and none of the singing is heavy. However, the ranges for she and he are very extensive. She, I would call a lyric soprano. The range is from low F3 to high C sharp 6. The tessitura, though, remains in a lyric soprano range from E4 to A5. I would say this would require an advanced singer, maybe a junior, senior grad student who sings very well, or a very developed freshman or sophomore. He is a baritone, and it's funny, he stays within the baritone range for most of the show, except for one duet?
It's one aria.
And it's basically a bass, he sounds like singing in the bass range for most of that. So it could be sung by a bass baritone or a baritone. Same thing, this needs to be an advanced singer, junior singer, grad student, or a developed freshman or sophomore. It could be cast as an actor who sort of just can sing a little bit on pitch, because he really only has 2 sung measures that need to be sung in a declamatory fashion. The rest of it is spoken, okay? The range is from E to E, E3 to E4. The tessitura is B3 to D4. That's in those 2 measures. Due to the limited range and mostly spoken nature, a non-singer could easily perform this role, like I said earlier. And I'm going to ask Michael to talk a little bit about the piano, if you would.
Absolutely. It's my first experience with any of Madeline's pieces. Clearly, she loved the theater, and she had the sounds and the colors of orchestration in her mind when she did it. So it's not necessarily a pianistic piece. It is definitely something that employs a lot of orchestral color. Hopefully, I'll bring that out for you today. It's not really for young pianists. I think it would definitely require somebody who knew what they were doing. She does put a few notes and things, articulations in the score. It really actually requires someone to sort of add all the extras to it to bring it to life. It doesn't play itself, for sure. But it provides an awful lot of the mood and the humor in the piece. So it's a great play. I enjoy it.
Okay, so why should you produce Cupboard Love? Right, so we've talked a little bit already about the limited performing forces. 3 characters and a piano. Everyone has the ability to find 3 characters and a piano. The she role is very specifically for soprano. Despite the extended range, it is 1 or 2 notes on each side. So the type of soprano is really determinant upon what your program has. A coloratura could very easily sing this. A lyric soprano that has a little bit of a high extension obviously could as well, and maybe even a more slightly-ish dramatic soprano could get through it and just like whip up a high note or 2. But there's a lot of real low, there's a lot of ledger lines in the soprano at the bottom end, and it's amazing, I love it. He, again, mostly lives in the baritone range, but because there are so many low sort of, it's a dark story, there's a little bit of this all this whodunit sort of nature, that he basically has an extended low section which will provide a little bit of issue for a lot of baritones, right? So if you don't have a baritone that feels super confident on a low F or a low F sharp, it's going to be a little bit of a stretch for them. That being said, in multiple sort of productions that are on the internet, there's some octave displacement done for the character in order to facilitate ease of production, okay? It, again, can be baritone or bass, but I actually feel it is the most sort of like Frosch in Die Fledermaus, right? He sort of at the end takes over and has his own melodrama that becomes his own like Shayna itself. And as a result, to me, it makes the most sense that an actor or someone that has a lot of theatricality and can really command the stage should be this character, because all of a sudden that's the twist, and if the twist isn't dug in, then we sort of lose everything. It's in English. Some of the syntax is noted for British pronunciations, which you will hear, but it is musically accessible. There are melodies, they are pretty. There are moments that are not as melodic, but in general, it's more melodies. The length of the show is basically anywhere between 24 and 28, 29, 30 minutes. So it's a sub 30-minute show, which makes it great to be programmed with other one-act operas, scenes program even. It could be sort of the capstone of one of those events. Anything out in the open, you could do it in Halloween. It's a great Halloween piece. We love Halloween. And the versatility of its length and setting give you the opportunity to put it basically anywhere. Another reason to produce the show is it's a very acting heavy. So despite the fact that we were not staging it today, there's a lot of room for acting. There's a lot of pianistic music. There's a long overture where the piano basically goes through a lot of the themes, but also that's what brings in the characters. And so there's a lot of moments for stillness and a lot of moments for very interesting choices that can be made in the acting department as well. And setting, I keep talking about the setting, but I feel like this would be a great thing to do outside at night. A little bit of mics just because of the nature of the tessitura. Who doesn't love a whodunit story, right? True crime, I hear is big. I watch some true crime. And so as a result, it always keeps people, who killed him? Which one is it? Which one is it? Until the end and the twist, and it's a nice little move there. And the last thing, and the last reason is, I think this is a wonderful show to collaborate with the theater department with. So if you're looking for a show that can actually give, a theater student the it role, for instance, to act, to be a part of it. The it role in general is just on stage dead the whole time and sort of acts as a conduit for some of the atmospheric changes, some of the dance moves that you'll see in some of the shows. It gives a real opportunity to collaborate with areas that, generally speaking, don't necessarily always play well together. So I think it's a great show that gives everyone an opportunity to interdisciplinarily collaborate. So, without further ado, and here's citations. All right, so thanks for coming, and I hope you enjoy this performance of Cupboard Love.
I want to thank Claudia. Just stepped in to learn and sing this role very quickly, so we're very thankful.
is it this time, honey?
Dead, if you ask me.
Let me see. Let me see. Oh, his intercostals all relaxed, his pulmonary lobes have ceased to fill, his myocardium no more contracts, and in both auricle and ventricle, diastole and systole are still. His stagnant serum rich in red corpuscles no longer seeps through his capillaries, bringing the hemoglobin to his muscles. His temperature has fallen 10 degrees, and rigor mortis grieves above his knees. Already on his soft somatic tissue, strange saprophytic organisms die. Soon animals will mate there and have issue, while through foramina is skull and spine. Belly's perennis roots will intertwine.
Darling,
Yes,
does that mean that he is dead?
yes,
Really and truly,
yes.
as
Indubitably.
How nice it is when husbands die, just when the one turns old. So nice it is, I can't think why there was so few of them who tried, so very, very few.
For 'tis a melancholy fact that husbands very seldom act with even a modicum of fact in this important item.
And though they should have had long since to their roots live on and on,
And on ad infinitum,
and so
and so it's nice when they die, just when one wants them to. How nice, so nice. I think we're lucky too, and that my sweetie pie is why I think we're lucky, you and I. How nice it is when husbands die, just when one wants them to. Yes.
How did he die? How did he die?
Ha!
How did he die?
He died with his boots on.
Don't be stupid. That's not what I mean.
What did you mean?
I meant
was dead. Moreover, I cannot deny that this fact is a source of considerable satisfaction to me.
Me too.
Darling,
It would be nice to know how he died.
surely it's enough to know that he is dead, without having to look at absolutely priceless gift horse in the mouth out of sheer idle curiosity. How like a woman.
Darling,
Yes?
relax. You can trust me. You can trust me. Listen.
description that matters, but the object, not the nomenclature, but the occurrence, not the equation, but the phenomenon, not the term, but the event.
In this case, the event is tolerably acceptable. Don't you think,
Everything about you is utterly delectable. I simply dote on your duffel coat. I enthuse by your narrow shoes, to say nothing of your body so stunning and flat in shoes.
that's better.
Everything about you is utterly delectable. Your hair sprouting in a horse's tail, your lips wine-washed and pale, where the taste of garlic lingers, and the nicotine stains dawning on your brown, bright fingers.
And now, what are we going to do with the body?
The body,
That one. The remains, the victim, the corpus delicti. You clever boy.
clever, clever. I'm not clever at all, I'm stupid. Come here.
Yes!
How did you know he was poisoned? How did you know it was not a heart attack?
Nothing.
Do you remember nothing?
Those are pills that were his eyes.
What? You are not a toxicologist. Yet you take one look at a cadaver and recognize the symptoms of pulmonary poisoning after a glance. The white flesh, the staring eyes, the flabby skin. Oh, don't answer! Don't answer! It is not unknown in nature for the female to kill her spouse. The rat will do it sometimes, though never the tick or the louse. Occasional misadventures are reported from the zoo, but on the whole it's a practice that vertebrates eschew. On the other hand, behavior that vertebrates think on may be the merest commonplace to the female arthropod. Consider the conduct of the garden spider. While her husband is still engaged in his attentions, like Clytemnestra, she entangles him in a web of silk, while she charges her sharp emissary with poison. Soon as he is finished her satisfaction, she ends his pain, while the nightingale sings in the bloody wood. Jump, 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 jump. So
chance that I did it?
You had the means, you had the motive, you had the opportunity.
Had I?
Particularly the motive.
You think so?
Naturally, it's all very flattering.
Is it?
Not every man has a girlfriend at once so enterprising, so devoted, and so efficient, and yet I never did like spiders. What do we know?
Shall I whisper it in your ear, darling? Shall I utter it in a voice? Shall I shout it out on the rooftops? Shall I scream?
That's up to you, darling.
You killed my husband!
Me? You say you love me and you think I'm a murderer.
I want as you song and pray, and primitive and passionate, instead of which
You accuse me of a miserable, low-down, poisonous, brutally crime.
you try to make out I did it!
And did it go?
No!
Either did I. You hasten shrieking magpie. You see what the hyena. You timid wild scripture. You facial tigress.
Let me take you back!
Scorpion.
You are
You praying mantis.
Why are you laughing?
You look so funny.
Who?
Both of you.
We thought you were dead.
I am.
How do you know?
Because I committed suicide.
What have you got to laugh at?
You don't know the half of it, eh? But I shall tell you. I have committed suicide. So far, so good. But where do you think the poison came from, The curare? The Indian arrow poison? From your laboratory, my friend. Your fingerprints are on the label. Oh yes, I thought of that. And yours, my dear, are on the glass from which I drank it.
Where?
Hidden. Both hidden.
The telltale bottle and the telltale glass, hidden where you can't find them.
Clever. No one will find them. No one will touch them. No one will wipe them clean until the police arrive and go over the whole place with a small tooth comb. Then questions. What will you answer? What will you say at the trial? Means, motive, opportunity, and fingerprints.
Gentlemen of the jury, you may think, you may consider. Evidence. Guilty, my lord. Have you anything to say? Nothing? Again, nothing? Nothing will come of nothing. The black cap. The condemned cell. Waiting. Waiting. The long drop. That's the police now, I think. Bless you, my children. I'll be seeing you.